I had coffee today for like the first time in like a month or so, and I'm a little jittery. Hey guys, it is Vicky and welcome back. Today I'm going to be telling you guys about how I got my job at the Walt Disney Company. So a few months ago, after having this channel for like 2 years or so, I finally revealed, I don't know if revealed, because I wasn't really hiding it, but I just never talked about it. But I finally let you guys in on the fact that I work for Disney. So after that, I got a few personal messages asking me about how I did it, resume tips, applying tips, all these different sorts of things. And so I just wanted to make a video to answer some more of those questions. When I was applying, I don't think I saw a lot of videos like this, like they were not really out there at all, at least on working for corporate, and I'll get a little bit more into those details, but working on the corporate side, a corporate internships. So yeah, I just kind of want to help you guys out and answer some of the questions to things I wish or I really wanted to know when I was applying. So I've been working for the Walt Disney Company for almost 5 years now. I started at Disney as an intern, which led into a full-time position, and I've been there ever since. So I'm gonna be sharing with you guys specifically how I got my foot into the door at Disney. So a lot of these tips are gonna be for people that are at the same level, like either looking for internships or entry-level jobs. However, if you're not in that field, but you're still interested in hearing this, you're more welcome to stay. I'm sure a lot of the tips might even be helpful for you, even if you're going for something that might be a little bit higher level. Or maybe you just want to stay to hear me ramble, whatever, you're more than welcome to. So there are 2 parts to this video. I'm first going to be walking you guys through how I got my job at Disney and what the process looked like for me, and then I'm going to be giving you guys some specific tips and tricks for you when you are applying. Although I do work for the Walt Disney Company, please note that this video is not sponsored or affiliated in no way by them. All opinions are my own. Nobody at Disney told me to do this or say any of these things, and know that none of these things guarantee that you will get the job. These are just things that I think might help you because they helped me. And I should probably take this badge off because I don't want it to look like I'm conducting official business for them. So yeah, so with that said, let's get right into it. So first and foremost, I don't know what that was, but first and foremost, what is a professional internship? If you're here, you probably already know, but for those that don't know, let me explain it. There are 2 types of internships at Disney. There's the college program internships and the professional internships. A college program internship. A college program internship means that you are basically doing, working at the parks, whether at Walt Disney World or Disneyland Resort, where you're actually working inside the park, doing the job that any of the full-time cast members you would see doing inside the park, whether that be custodial work, working attractions, working in the concession stands, what else, working at hotels, guest services. It just depends. You're basically like one of the park employees, but it's an internship kind of position. And then professional internship is where you are working on the corporate side of things. So in the offices, anything from working for the Walt Disney Company corporate, consumer products, Marvel division, Lucas, what are the other ones? It's so big. I'm not gonna list them off here because we would be here forever, but basically it's a big company and there's so many areas. And when you're working in a professional internship, you can work in any one of those areas, and you would be doing work that focuses either on marketing, which is what I did and I do, or production, or analytics, finance. Professional internship is more like direct, like, you could be working in your finance degree and you can work as an intern in the finance department, if that makes sense. So getting into my process and how I got my internship and job at Disney. So I went to the University of Southern California, where I was working on my degree for communication. I originally thought that with that degree, I wanted to work within the broadcast journalism or journalism field, but after doing some work in those fields, I realized that the job was just not for me. So after some more thinking and just noodling on what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or at least after college, I landed on marketing. I knew I wanted to be within the entertainment field, but I wasn't sure where or what. And then lo and behold, Disney came to our campus to recruit, and they held a panel about all of the different types of jobs and opportunities that they had to offer. And that is when the light bulb kind of sparked and went off for me. This was like in the beginning of my senior year or late junior year, where I realized that I wanted to work for Disney within either their consumer products or their parks divisions. So once I identified that was it for me. I narrowed it down and I applied like crazy for internships. I definitely struggled. I was one of those persons where it did not come as easily, but I did not give up. It all happens for a reason, and it was a learning experience that I think I definitely needed. Like from the moment that I knew I wanted to work for Disney to when I like actually got the internship that led to my job today, I think I must have applied to like 30 something jobs in the span of like a year or a little less. It was hard, and I probably got interviews for like maybe half of those, whether they were just screenings or full-on like process interviews. And I think a lot of the reason that I didn't get it either was because of timing just wasn't right. I sucked at interviews. By the way, guys, I am the most awkward, horrible person when it comes to interviews, which now saying this makes me realize that it probably doesn't make me as credible in the advice I'm giving you. But trust me, I've learned. I think I've gotten better, and if anything, you can learn from my mistakes. But a combination of those things, just young, naive, scared, super awkward. And also for a lot of those jobs, they were looking for full-time interns while I was still in school. And not that all internships are full-time, but at least when I was applying, a lot of them were. I think now you can do some where you're still going to school at the same time, but yeah. So applied to all these jobs. I didn't get anything. I graduated and I had no job, was super bummed out because it was just not working for me. I don't want to say I gave up, but I definitely lost hope. I mean, it crushes you when you really want something and you're working so hard for it and you don't get it. And then also I was like, girls gotta eat. And so I had to find another job. So I found another job, which was at an amazing company as well. I love the people there, and I worked there for a few months, but during my time there, I kind of sat and had this like, I don't know, this epiphany, is that the right word? I don't know what it was, but basically I just realized that I couldn't give up. Like Disney was still at the back of my mind, and basically I realized that I couldn't give up and I should just give it, like what if, just give it one more time. So at the time, I'm not sure if this is still a policy, but you still had 6 months after graduation to qualify for an internship. So I was like, you know what, I'm really hitting that 6-month mark really close. I'm just gonna try it. And I applied for this one position in marketing for video games. And I got a call back for a phone interview, and then I got an interview with the manager, and I ended up getting it. The process for me took, I don't remember if the round was like 2 to 3 rounds. There was definitely some phone screenings in there, and then I did meet with the manager one time. All interviews, by the way, have a different process and have a different amount of rounds. I think I did like maybe 2 phone interviews. Almost all of them basically start with a phone screening with the HR person, and then I met with my manager. I don't remember all of the questions that were asked because this was so long ago, like 5 years ago, but a lot of them had to do obviously with industry questions, personality questions, but I'll get into some of those details in just a bit when I'm giving you guys the tips. After the whole interview process was done, it took about a week for me to hear back on the decision. Longest week of my life. I think I was checking, I'm not even joking, the clock or the email at the top of the hour, like every freaking hour. I was just so freaking anxious. And that's about what it usually takes, like a week or 2, although some actually here sooner and some here like after a month. It kind of just depends. But yeah, after so long, after a week and month of work of trying to get into the company, I got the email, the call, congratulating me for my job offer. And I think I cried. I may have cried. It was just a dream come true. So getting to the second part of this video, my tips for you and the things that I've learned from my experience in applying for Disney. I have about 10 of them. Try to get through them really quick so you're not listening here forever. First and foremost, do not get discouraged. I know this probably sounds cheesy maybe to say, but you just have to keep on trying, especially if it doesn't come as easily for you as like it didn't come for me. Disney is very, very competitive, and especially upon graduating and for these entry-level jobs, it's even more competitive because everybody is trying to get a job. It's gonna be hard, and you're gonna have to build and polish your resume and be a really strong candidate. I think I've only met like one person who has gotten it on their first try, one or two. But yeah, just don't give up. If you really want this, go for it and get it. And like a dog that doesn't let go of that bone, don't let go of your dreams. So cheesy. The second, you are probably not gonna like what I say for this one, but it is get experience elsewhere. I mean, I definitely thought about it all the time. It was like, what the heck were those job posts that you see where it's like an entry-level job and it's like 1 to 2 years of experience elsewhere? You're like, what the heck? This is an entry-level job. What do you mean I need experience in order to get experience? But if it's true anywhere, it is true at Disney. The internships at Disney are highly, highly competitive. So if you apply with a resume that has like just some volunteer work, but they have this other person who has like 2 to 3 other internships, they're probably gonna call this person back for an internship, and it's more likely that they're gonna give it to them just because they have that internship. At Disney, the internships are very, very fast-paced, very demanding. I've done internships outside of Disney and that one internship at Disney, and I can tell you that it's more like a full-time job, your internship at Disney. We're actually doing more hands-on work for the product or the business or whatever it is that you're working on. They trust you and they give you more, which is amazing because it's a great learning opportunity, but that just means that you're gonna have to get more experience elsewhere. It's not really about getting coffee or making copies. I mean, those things could be a part of the job, but for the most part, it's not that type of internship. So yeah, get your experience. Next tip is polish that darn resume. Your resume needs to be spick and span and the best of the best, because you are going to be within a pile of dozens, if not hundreds of others resumes for a job, and you need to stand out. For me personally, in addition to making it super polished, concise, don't have a 2-page resume, by the way. I'm not saying that that's like a deal breaker, but for the most part, there's some people that are like senior managers or high level that don't even have 2 pages. Like, just make sure that you make it concise. So clean it up, make it short and sweet, but still with all of the detail that you need. And also try to get creative, because this is a creative company. Not saying that you have to, but especially if you're working within creative fields, and if you're like a design student or something like that, I don't have to tell you this, like design student or creative students, resumes are crazy and amazing, and they have like amazing portfolios. But even if you're like in marketing or applying to engineering or something, or just even like finance, although finance doesn't really require it, but it's a creative company. Show them that you're creative too, because you're gonna be working on creative things in one way or another. So for me, for what I did, I polished it, and then I also gave it a spark of color. I put my own logo that I designed on there. I'm not a designer, but somehow, by the grace of God, I somehow figured out how to make a very simple but cute logo, put it on there. And it really, I think once I did that, once I started applying with that resume, is when I realized that I started getting way more calls back. So do it. It never hurts to go that extra mile. You don't have to go too crazy. Go online, look at different resumes for inspiration and see what works for you. It could just be, like I said, a pop of color, a simple design, maybe like working things a little bit differently, using a different type of font. Yeah. The next thing is look into the industry for that specific job, especially after you get your call back and you're going to be interviewed, because you want to be as knowledgeable as you can. Like, having a degree in that field doesn't necessarily make it enough. Know what's happening like in actual real world and what's happening with Disney. There's tons of articles all the time on different things that the Walt Disney Company is doing, you know, new business deals or, you know, challenges, etc. Look into those things. Look for the keywords within the job, things that maybe you're not familiar with. Like, it's okay to not know everything within the job post, or sometimes even not necessarily to have any experience within that field. Maybe you have experience in another field, another internship, and you want to try this. So yeah, apply for those, but look into it so you know you're knowledgeable enough and you're not just like, I don't know. It really helps have a more comfortable conversation with the interviewers, and yeah, it just makes you look like you care and like you know what is happening. The interviews, they will be very specific and give you scenario questions not all of them, but from my experience, a lot of them did, where, you know, they ask you, what would you do in so and so like situation? I know this is like super vague, but just know they're going to be specific with certain terms within the job post, and maybe even give you scenario questions. So read about it and look into the industry. The next thing, this one was really hard for me, is take your time to listen and answer questions. I usually found myself super nervous, like saying like, oh my God, like, did I just sound like an idiot in that last question I answered? Oh my gosh, I wonder how I look like right now. I wonder if this is going well. And then they would ask something and I wasn't really processing what they asked, or like wasn't really taking the time to think about my answer, or like really just disseminate like what it was that they were saying to me. And then I would not give such a great answer. Take the time to listen and then take the time to answer. Like, it's okay to sit there and say, you know what? Let me think about that, and take a couple of seconds, the time you think. Like, don't rush to answer a question. Really, really think about it. In the occasions where I did that, I would say that that's when I usually would get more callbacks, and that's, I think, part of the reason that I probably got the internship that I had. The next tip is be prepared to talk about your weaknesses. I personally hate this question because I just feel like it's a trick question. At least when they ask you what your weakness is, there's a different way of asking that, where it's tell me about a time where you overcame an obstacle or you made a mistake and how you fixed it. I like that better. I just feel like weaknesses, if you don't ask it, if you don't answer it right, it could make you look like weak, which I guess is the point. I would say that like about 80% of the interviewers during my process doing this asked that question. They just like to get you with it. Some folks just love it. Be very careful, be honest, because if not, you might come off as weak or phony. Don't be like Michael from The Office, where he's like,
I work too hard, I care too much.
Yeah, instead, what you can do is try to make it more about how you overcame an obstacle. At least that's what I like to do. I like to kind of turn it around. If they don't ask me like, how did you fix or overcome something, I make it into that type of question. Obviously, try to make it an example where you really learned something or you overcame something, just like where it was a learning experience for you. So you can say, for example, like, I used to hate public speaking. This is actually true for me. I used to hate public speaking. I was petrified of it. And this is just a really short answer to it, not going into as much detail, but you know, you can say, you know, after a lot of practice and rehearsing with my manager and opening up to them about like my insecurities, I worked with her, practice on some other employees, and then when it came to this big executive meeting that I had, I was more prepared and more confident, and it's still something that I'm working on today, but I feel so much better about it. I don't know, something like that. You get what I'm saying? The next is be enthusiastic about the role. This probably you would think goes without saying, but a lot of folks, from talking like to interviewers and people and stuff, you'd be surprised. They get nervous and they kind of clam up and they kind of sound like shy and like they don't really, not that they don't care, but you know, like they're not enthusiastic about the job. During phone interviews especially, because they can't see you, smile. Smile. I think Disney, I've seen like in some of their blogs actually say this too, and I read it a lot when I was like interviewing. Smile. It helps. Like you would think, you probably feel stupid like being like, hi, yeah, like it's me, blah, 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 blah. But it really does help. Like it comes across, and especially you want to have that brand. You want to have that Disney brand, especially if you're like applying for the Disney stuff. You want to bring off a good energy. I actually overheard some folks who were interviewing for someone and bringing that up, like this person actually had a really good energy. Think about it. These people are going to be working with you for months if you're doing an internship, or like if you're doing an entry-level full-time job for a really long time. So most of these folks want to make sure that they're hiring someone who's enjoyable, who has a good energy, who's pleasant to be around, and is enthusiastic about the job. The next one is be professional, but be yourself, of course. Like you want to come off as a well-polished person when you're talking to them. Again, a lot of this comes with preparation. Don't be too loose and too friendly where you might say something that you regret. Not that I did that. I'm telling you guys, I was horrible at interviewing. But yeah, I don't know, just like, you have to figure out what the happy medium is for you. Like, don't ever forget that you're in an interview, but don't overdo it. Don't let those nerves and like about being super professional take over you, where like your true personality and your spark is not coming out. I think a lot of this you can also solve. Another little extra tip within this tip is interviewing, doing mock interviews with either friends or a family member or something like that, so that you know the way you sound beforehand. For the last few tips, These are for after you are done with the interview. Ask for their emails or business cards and take those notes, jot notes down about everything you talked about with every person after the interview, so that you want to do this right after because it is the most fresh off of your mind. And the reason you want to take these notes and have their emails is for the next step, because you want to send thank you cards. I have this debate with my husband where he's like, thank you cards don't really matter. I think it kind of just depends, maybe like the industry or the position that you're applying for. There's articles where people say it doesn't matter, but for me, I'm gonna say that it does. I don't know if I was an interviewer if it would matter for me. Maybe it would. It would be nice to say, get a thank you for, you know, your time. When I'm applying, at least, I always make it a point to send a thank you note, and I look back to those notes that I took right after the interview, and I send a personal message to each and one individual person, like the highlights, maybe something that we really connected on, and just adding that into the thank you email. You want to do this because it never hurts to just take that extra step to show them that you really care and that you really want this. And most of the time I've noticed that a lot of people are really sweet and they respond, which is kind of cool. And then also, if it always doesn't work out, you can also contact that person or maybe even just HR and be like, hey, can you give me a few pointers on why it didn't work out? And that is it. Those are all of my tips and tricks. I'm sure there are more out there that I have in my brain, but these are like the top ones that I could think of. If there's any specific questions, let me know in the comment section below, but hopefully these things help you guys out. If it's not working out for you and you're having a hard time like I did, do not be discouraged. If you really want something and you believe in it and it's like what your heart desires, do not give up. That was like so Disney of me to say. That's probably why I work for them. Things that are worth it are gonna take some time and are worth fighting for. So yeah, you gotta fight for what you want. That is all that I have for today's video. By the way, if you participated in my recent poll in the community tab, thank you so much. I did a little poll asking you guys what you wanted to see more of, and it looks like, surprise, surprise, you guys love them Disney videos. So lots more Disney coming, lots more vintage. I have some retro lookbooks coming this year, everything from like 40s, 50s vintage, but I'm also getting into some 80s and 90s because that's what I love. If you like this video, like this video and subscribe if you have not already. I would love to have you back on here. As always, guys, sending you a super duper big virtual hug wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.